Hey there everyone, happy Wednesday. I'm King 5 Meteorologist Adam Claibon. Well, things a lot quieter here into the evening. Our tsunami advisories are now gone and out of here, and thankfully that threat has subsided, and we're still keeping an eye out across the mountains here into the evening. Most of what we were going to see today as far as dry lightning has started to dissipate. Tomorrow we'll have another opportunity. It looks like the chances are going to be a little less as far as lightning and dry lightning because we'll have a little more moisture in the atmosphere, helping to reduce some rain that comes along with that. So we're going to talk about that forecast. There's some wildfire smoke around our area. We're going to let you know where that is and how that is connected with maybe some of that wildfire haze that you see across the skies here over the next day or so, plus maybe some poor air quality to go along with that. And as we head into the beginning of August, well, we are going to expect a cool down this upcoming weekend and into the first part, it looks like, of next work week. So quite a few things to get through. Let's go ahead and talk about what happened yesterday and really what happened last night and early this morning, because once that tsunami arrived, thankfully there wasn't much in terms of a higher wave that came through, just really more of those strong currents in the water. But La Push, we saw our water rises up to about 1.3 feet, about 1.2 feet around Port Angeles, and you can see around a half a foot around Westport and Nia Bay, coming in just under a half a foot. So thankfully, again, not a big issue for us when it comes to any sort of inundation or flooding. We saw some rip currents, yes, but thankfully a lot of people heeded the warnings and stayed out of the water throughout that time. Now, what we're keeping an eye on for here into the evening, if you can kind of tell, there is this tan color showing up just underneath the cloud coverage. So you see the cloud coverage moving, but also you can see right there, that's the wildfire smoke haze coming off of our Bear Gulch fire that is continuing to really flare up here over these past couple of days, producing all the smoke and the poor air quality that we've been dealing with here recently. And that's been extending and working its way through areas over the Olympic Peninsula, and even seeing some of this up across more of Skagit and Whatcom County as well. As we zoom into that, you can kind of tell that we're still kind of dealing with this here as we go over the next day or so. So if you are around the immediate area, definitely try to take precaution, especially if you are a bit more sensitive to that smoke haze, because it is going to provide and produce some issues for you when it comes to just how poor the air quality is here across the area. Here's a look at our forecast as we head on into this evening. We're expecting the air quality to be good, and we'll see that conditions will be fairly decent for everywhere else except there around Mason County, which is expected to be more on the moderate side. But again, up there closer to Lake Clifton, we're expecting conditions to be a little more worse. Here's your forecast. You can see temperatures as we head on into this evening going to be dropping back down to the 50s. So early tomorrow morning, upper 50s for some of those lows. We'll see partly sunny skies, maybe a chance of some showers around. We'll show you how small those chances really are. Then we'll see things dry out, but also cool down as we head into the upcoming weekend, and definitely by next work week. Just mentioned the wildfire haze that we could see up across the skies here in Whatcom County. Check it out. You can definitely tell there is that haze in the sky. So Bellingham kind of going to give you some beautiful colors to your sunset here this evening. This is as of about 8 to 9 o'clock here into the evening, but overall we're expecting conditions to remain relatively quiet. Not going to see as much of that haze here in Seattle, but we do have some clouds moving on through with those thunderstorms that have been pushing on by over the Cascades. We do expect to see more of those clouds here into the night, and then start off with some of them heading into the day for tomorrow. Now, the air mass should start to cool down in a few spots, especially out towards the coast, where we're already down by about 8 degrees in comparison to at this point yesterday evening. Friday Harbor even more so, down by 10 degrees. Still a bit warmer here as you head farther to the east, where we're holding on to the low 80s here around Tacoma, Puyallup, and in Seattle. Upper 70s so far in Bremerton and in Shelton. And the storm activity, well, most of it now has begun to die off. You're seeing just a few of them across the extreme northeastern part of the state, just north of Spokane over there. Generally, though, we're seeing very little in terms of any sort of action on the radar. And the action that we did see over more of the Cascades this way, thankfully not a ton of lightning. So we'll see over the next couple of days if anything did spark up with the few lightning strikes that we did have, because we definitely didn't have a lot of moisture. But thankfully, there wasn't as much of the widespread lightning to come through the area here into the evening. So as we zoom out, you'll see that high pressure is now off to our south and to our west. We have this area of low pressure that's really been spinning across the Gulf of Alaska for a while here throughout the week, and we'll inch a little closer as we head on into the end of the work week, helping to produce a bit more of a cool down and more of that onshore push. For the rest of this evening and tonight, clouds continuing to work their way in here. This is just before midnight, and really after midnight heading into early Thursday morning. we're expecting to see generally just cloud coverage here across the area and a bit more of that marine layer out along the coast where you can definitely tell some of those spotty greens showing up over that way. Well, that is that marine layer. Maybe some mist going on along with that here along the coastline, but I think generally we're just talking about some pretty heavy cloud coverage that will be around for us. And something else that we're starting to notice too, you'll see that our wave of showers and a few storms beginning to work their way up from the south, out of Oregon, up and over more the Cascades. Now you'll see as we advance this that it does start to get a bit closer to some of our lowland areas as we head into the afternoon and evening hours. Now some of that could sneak over here, but at the same time we're seeing a lot of that activity beginning to die off too. So looks like as of right now, if we are going to see that particular wave move through near and north of King County and Snohomish County, we'll have the better chances of seeing some of that rain here across the lowlands. The farther south you are and the farther west you are, maybe unlikely of seeing anything out of that. Plus, we'll get a better chance of rain generally just across the eastern side of the state. So that dies off. Again, as we head more so into the day on Friday, we're going to get a little more of that onshore push, a bit more of that cloud coverage in place too. So that will help to reintroduce more of that pattern of seeing the morning clouds and the afternoon sunshine with that cooler air that's going to be arriving for us. I think too, as we head throughout the day on Friday, we'll eventually start to clear out again, and so we'll get to warm back up. We'll be around the 80-degree mark, and we'll kind of stay there too as we head on into the upcoming weekend with very little changing on the way as far as what we're going to be noticing as far as our temperatures. And at the same time too, hopefully we'll start to maybe brush and start to blow a bit more of that wildfire smoke out of the immediate area of Mason County, where we've been dealing with a bit more of that thicker and denser smoke across the area. That will help us out as far as air quality and really start to improve conditions there when it comes to that. And we're going to reintroduce a bit more of that humidity into the air mass to help kind of limit some of the additional burning that's happening there with that. But looking at that here, we're taking a look at what's happening generally across the upper parts of the atmosphere. You can see the thicker plumes over Mason County and also extending down across more the eastern half of Grays Harbor County. And then it extends farther north too, across the extreme eastern parts of the Olympic Peninsula and going all the way up towards, it looks like, the San Juans and more of Skagit and Whatcom County. And so that's why we're seeing a bit more of that wildfire haze in the skies here throughout this evening and what we're going to see around here for the next day or maybe even 2 days as we head into Thursday and then into Friday. Now we'll start to see a bit more of that onshore push. You'll see that may eventually mean more wildfire smoke haze across areas of King County, Snohomish County, and even points farther to the south, Thurston County and Pierce County. We'll get our chance of seeing some of that wildfire smoke haze. Hopefully it won't mean too much of a degradation in our air quality, but it's probably going to be a hard bet to not really see any impacts from that when it comes to our air quality. But as of right now, we're not expecting a huge difference or a huge impact when it comes to that, unless you are closer there to maybe more of Hood Canal or more of Mason County, where you'll have and be closer to that source of the fire. All right, here's your forecast for tonight. We'll see temperatures drop down into more of the mid-50s around Bremerton, Shelton, and in Olympia. Upper 50s around Tacoma and in Seattle. 57 in Bellingham, 55 in Quileute. Highs tomorrow getting up to 75 in Blaine. We'll top off at about 65 in Anacortes, 70 in Orcas Island. Mid-60s around Oak Harbor, Coopville getting up to 70 degrees. We'll be at 77 in Marysville. Monroe hitting 80 degrees for a high. We'll see the same number around Redmond, Snoqualmie topping off at 77. Lower 80s around Shoreline. Kingston up to 76. Des Moines 80 degrees, 82 in Auburn, and then lower 80s around Puyallup and in Yelm. Eatonville just shy of the 80 degree mark. 80 degrees in Olympia. Tenino at 78 degrees, and you'll see more upper 70s through the Chehalis Valley, through Centralia, going down towards Longview or along the I-5 corridor there. 60s out towards the coast. 70s around Hub Tulips. We'll see highs just shy of the 80 degree mark there in Lake Cushman, where we are dealing with that fire and that smoke haze. And then lower 70s and upper 60s there across what looks like the northern coast of the Olympic Peninsula. Your forecast here as we head on into the night, expect temperatures to drop down into the 50s, and then we'll head on into your day tomorrow, seeing those maybe a chance of a shower or two around early into the morning. Don't think we're going to have too much moisture really to play with, so anything that we do see as far as rain here these next couple of days will not do a whole lot to really create any conditions that are going to help us as far as our drought conditions here across the area. But it does continue to supply us with more of that moisture and humidity in the air to limit some of those fires, those conditions that we have as far as the dry fuels here across western Washington. All right, everyone. Well, last day of July on the way for Thursday. It's going to be a bit of a cooler one. We made it through now 7 months out of the year. Hope you guys have a great last day of July. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night.